The year was 2157, and humanity stood on the precipice of a new era. Dr. Samantha Chen, lead researcher at the Global Space Initiative, peered through the reinforced glass of the observation deck, her eyes fixed on the pulsing artifact suspended in the chamber beyond. The object, a crystalline structure roughly the size of a basketball, had been unearthed during a routine Mars expedition just 6 months ago. Since then, it had become the focal point of humanity's scientific endeavors. Any changes, Dr. Chen? The voice belonged to Admiral James Holloway, a grizzled veteran of Earth's fledgling Space Force. Samantha shook her head, her eyes never leaving the artifact. Nothing yet. Admiral, but I can't shake the feeling that we're on the verge of something monumental. As if responding to her words, the artifact suddenly pulsed with an intense blue light. Alarms blared throughout the facility as energy readings spiked off the charts. "Everyone, brace yourselves," Samantha shouted, gripping the railing in front of her. A wave of energy burst forth from the artifact, washing over the facility and beyond. For a moment, every electronic device on Earth flickered and died. Then, as quickly as it had begun, the pulse subsided. In the silence that followed, Samantha and Admiral Holloway exchanged bewildered looks. "What just happened?" the Admiral asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Before Samantha could respond, the main screen in the control room flickered to life. Lines of alien text scrolled across the display, quickly shifting into English. "Greetings, children of Earth," a synthesized voice emanated from the speakers. "You have awakened the Nexus. The time has come for your species to join the galactic community." The room erupted in a flurry of activity as scientists and military personnel scrambled to make sense of the situation. Samantha, however, remained transfixed by the artifact, which now glowed with a steady, pulsing light. "Admiral," she said, her voice filled with a mixture of awe and trepidation, "I think we've just made first contact." Over the next few weeks, the world changed at a pace that left even the most optimistic futurists breathless. The Nexus, as the artifact called itself, was a repository of advanced alien knowledge and technology. It began downloading its vast database into Earth's computer systems, granting humanity access to scientific and technological breakthroughs that would have taken centuries to achieve on their own. Faster than light travel, gravity manipulation, energy shields. Concepts that had once been the realm of science fiction suddenly became attainable goals. The global economy shifted almost overnight as nations and corporations raced to adapt to and implement the new technologies. Samantha found herself at the center of it all, working tirelessly to decipher and understand the wealth of information pouring from the Nexus. One day, as she pored over schematics for a fusion drive that could propel a ship to the edge of the solar system in a matter of hours, she noticed Admiral Holloway approaching. "Dr. Chen," he said, his face grave, "we've detected something. I think you need to see this." He led her to the command center, where a holographic display showed a series of objects moving at incredible speed towards Earth. "What am I looking at, Admiral?" Samantha asked, her brow furrowed. "We're not entirely sure," Holloway replied. "But based on what we've learned from the Nexus, these appear to be ships. Alien ships." Samantha's heart raced. Hostile. Unknown. But they'll be here within the week. As news of the approaching fleet spread, the world held its collective breath. Governments scrambled to implement the defensive technologies provided by the Nexus, but everyone knew they were working against the clock. 5 days later, the alien ships entered Earth's orbit. They were massive, dwarfing even the largest human space stations. As the world watched in tense silence, a transmission was broadcast to every communication device on the planet. "People of Earth," a gravelly voice declared, "I am High Commander Zaxlor of the Vraxian Empire. Your activation of a Nexus artifact has alerted us to your presence. Prepare to be evaluated. If found worthy, you may be granted the privilege of serving the Empire. If not, well, let us hope it does not come to that." The transmission cut off, leaving humanity reeling. Samantha turned to Admiral Holloway, her face set with determination. "Admiral, we need to buy more time. The Nexus has given us the knowledge, but we haven't had the chance to fully implement it. If we can delay this evaluation, we might stand a chance." Holloway nodded grimly. "I agree, but how do we stall an alien armada?" Samantha's mind raced, piecing together fragments of information from the Nexus. The Vraxians, they value strength and innovation. What if we challenge them to a demonstration? A contest of sorts. A contest. Holloway looked skeptical. What kind of contest could we possibly win against an advanced alien civilization? A slow smile spread across Samantha's face, one that plays to our strengths. "Admiral, how quickly can we retrofit one of our ships with the new Nexus tech?" Over the next 48 hours, Earth's best engineers worked around the clock, modifying the HS Defiant with a hodgepodge of human ingenuity and alien technology. It wasn't pretty, but it was the best they could do in the time they had. As the deadline approached, Samantha stood on the bridge of the Defiant, her heart pounding. Admiral Holloway's voice came through the comm system. "Dr. Chen, are you sure about this?" Samantha took a deep breath. "No, Admiral, but it's the best chance we've got." She opened a channel to the Vraxian flagship. "High Commander Zaxlor, this is Dr. Samantha Chen of Earth. We propose a challenge. A race through the asteroid belt. Our ship against one of yours. If we win, you grant us 1 standard solar year to prepare for your evaluation." There was a long pause before Zaxlor's voice boomed through the speakers. "You are either very brave or very foolish, humans, but you have piqued my curiosity. We accept your challenge." As the Defiant took its position alongside a sleek Vraxian vessel, Samantha silently thanked every deity she could think of. The plan had worked. For now. But the real test was yet to come. "Engines ready," the pilot announced. Course plotted through the asteroid field. Samantha gripped her seat. "This is it, everyone. Let's show them what humanity can do." As the starting signal flashed, both ships surged forward, plunging into the dangerous dance of the asteroid belt. The fate of Earth hung in the balance, resting on the shoulders of a hastily modified ship and a crew pushed to the limits of their abilities. The race had begun, and with it, humanity's desperate bid for survival in a universe that had suddenly become much larger and more perilous than they had ever imagined. As the two ships plunged deeper into the asteroid belt, Captain Ilara Vance gripped the control yoke of the Starfire, her knuckles white beneath her flight gloves. The retrofitted cargo hauler shuddered as another fragment of space rock glanced off its reinforced hull. "Status report," Ilara barked, her eyes never leaving the chaotic dance of asteroids on the main view screen. Dr. Lyra Chen, the ship's science officer, called out from her station, "Hull integrity at 92% and holding." "The modifications are working, Captain, but I don't know for how long." Ilara allowed herself a grim smile. The Starfire might be ugly, but she was tough. Their rival, the sleek military vessel Artemis, was built for speed, not endurance. In this lethal obstacle course, that might just give them the edge they needed. "Nav, what's our progress?" Ilara asked, deftly maneuvering around a bus-sized chunk of nickel and iron. Lieutenant Kai Takeda's fingers flew over his console. "We're maintaining course, Captain. The artifact signal is getting stronger. I estimate we'll reach the coordinates in approximately 47 minutes. A tense silence fell over the bridge. The artifact, an alien device of unimaginable power, lost in this asteroid field centuries ago. Its energy signature had finally been detected, triggering a frantic race between nations. Whoever claimed it first would have the means to defend Earth against the impending alien invasion. Or, Ilara thought darkly, the means to dominate the planet entirely. A proximity alarm blared, shattering her reverie. "Incoming," shouted Kai. "Big one, 3 o'clock." Ilara's instincts took over. She wrenched the Starfire into a steep dive, feeling the ship groan in protest. A massive asteroid filled the view screen, blotting out the stars. "Brace for impact," Ilara yelled. The collision klaxon wailed as the crew held on for dear life. At the last possible second, Ilara fired the port thrusters, sending the Starfire into a wild spin. The asteroid scraped along their dorsal hull with a sound like tearing metal, but they were past it. As Ilara fought to stabilize the ship, she caught a glimpse of the Artemis. Their rival had been forced into an even riskier maneuver, barely squeezing through a gap between two colliding rocks. "Damage report," Ilara demanded, her heart pounding. Lyra's voice was steady, but Ilara could hear the underlying tension. "Hull breach on Deck C. Emergency force fields engage. We're venting atmosphere, but it's contained for now." Ilara nodded grimly. They were battered but still in the race, and somewhere ahead, hidden in this deadly field of stone and metal, lay the key to humanity's survival, or its downfall. "All hands," she announced shipwide. "Prepare for final approach. Whatever happens next will determine the fate of everyone we left behind on Earth. Let's make it count." The Starfire plunged onward, deeper into the heart of the asteroid belt, chasing destiny. As the Starfire pressed on, the asteroid field began to thin, giving way to an eerie calm. Ilara's eyes narrowed, her instincts screaming that this respite was too good to be true. "Captain," Kai's voice was hushed with awe, "you need to see this." The main view screen flickered, zooming in on their destination. Nestled within a cluster of asteroids was a structure that defied explanation. Crystalline spires stretched out into space, pulsing with an otherworldly blue light. At its core, a sphere of what appeared to be liquid metal rotated slowly, defying the laws of physics. "The artifact," Lyra breathed, her scientific curiosity momentarily overriding her caution. "It's not just a device. It's a station of some kind." Ilara felt a chill run down her spine. "Life signs." Lyra shook her head. "Nothing definitive, but these readings. Captain, I've never seen energy patterns like this. It's like the whole structure is alive somehow." A burst of comm static made them all jump. "Starfire, this is the Artemis," a gruff voice announced. "Stand down and prepare to be boarded. The artifact is now under the jurisdiction of the United Earth Alliance military." Ilara's jaw clenched. She'd known this was coming, but it didn't make the decision any easier. "Like hell it is," she muttered, then louder, "Kai, kill the comms. Lyra, I need options for docking with that thing." "Captain," Kai's voice was strained, "the Artemis is arming weapons." "Evasive maneuvers," Ilara ordered, her hands flying over the controls. "Get us in close to the artifact. They won't risk damaging it." The Starfire lurched as a warning shot from the Artemis streaked past their bow. Ilara's world narrowed to the space between her ship and their goal, every fiber of her being focused on threading the needle. Suddenly, the artifact flared to life. Tendrils of energy lashed out, enveloping both ships in a web of crackling blue light. Ilara felt a strange sensation, as if reality itself was bending around them. "What's happening?" she managed to ask, her voice sounding distant and distorted to her own ears. Lyra's response was cut off as a blinding flash filled the bridge. When Ilara's vision cleared, she gasped in shock. The asteroid field, the pursuing Artemis, even the familiar stars, all had vanished. The Starfire hung suspended in an alien sky, a vast, ringed planet dominating the horizon. Unfamiliar constellations twinkled in the darkness beyond. "Where are we?" Kai whispered, his face pale in the glow of his console. Before anyone could respond, a new voice filled the bridge. Melodious, inhuman, and echoing with ancient power. "Welcome, children of Earth," it said, "to the first outpost of the progenitors. Your trial begins now." Ilara exchanged stunned looks with her crew. Whatever they had expected to find, this was beyond imagination. The race for the artifact had led them to the threshold of something far greater and far more dangerous, than they could have ever prepared for. With a deep breath, Ilara steeled herself for what was to come. "Well," she said, a wry smile playing at her lips, "I guess we've got some first contact protocols to brush up on. Let's hope we're quick learners." As the Starfire drifted toward the alien world below, Ilara couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning of a journey that would reshape the destiny of humanity forever. The HSS Indomitable cruised through the outer reaches of the LPA system, its sleek hull glinting against the backdrop of distant stars. Admiral Bailey stood tall on the bridge, his presence commanding and resolute. The tactical display on the main screen showed a sea of red, enemy ships. The Void Fleet, a monstrous amalgamation of bioorganic vessels, pulsated like a living organism. "Status report," Bailey ordered, his voice calm but firm. Captain Michaels, his second in command, approached with a stern expression. "The Void Fleet is massive, sir. Our long-range scans indicate their numbers vastly outmatch ours, but their coordination seems imperfect." Bailey nodded. "They rely on sheer numbers, not strategy. That's where we'll hit them." His gaze drifted to the stars, his mind racing with the responsibility he carried. The Lura, a peaceful race unaccustomed to war, were counting on him. Humanity was their only hope, and he wouldn't let them down. As the Indomitable edged closer to the LPA home system, the faint glimmer of enemy ships appeared on the horizon. Hundreds of Void fighters hovered like predators, waiting to strike. Their grotesque forms twisted unnaturally, part machine, part creature, as though they were alive but enslaved by something far worse. "Engage long-range cannons," Bailey ordered, his voice unwavering. "Let's give them a taste of human firepower." The bridge buzzed with activity as the crew followed his command. The Indomitable's long-range cannons roared to life, sending waves of energy blasts hurtling through space. Bright beams of blue energy tore through the darkness, ripping into the approaching Void ships. Direct hits. Void fighters exploded in clouds of debris and fire, their unnatural shrieks briefly silenced in the cold vacuum of space. But the Void was relentless. From the depths of the enemy fleet, larger ships began to emerge. These weren't the erratic fighters the humans had just faced. These were the Void capital ships, enormous bioorganic behemoths that radiated malevolence. Their surfaces pulsed, alive with alien energy, and their weapons bristled with dark energy that twisted and contorted the space around them. "We've got bigger problems," Captain Michaels muttered under his breath as the capital ships loomed on the tactical display. Bailey's eyes narrowed. "Prepare all weapon systems. We're taking them head-on." The Indomitable surged forward, closing the gap between itself and the Void fleet. Explosions rocked the hull as the first barrage of enemy fire rained down. The ship's shields flickered but held firm, glowing with a bright blue light as they absorbed the damage. "All fighters, launch," Bailey commanded. From the hangar, swarms of human starfighters shot into the Void, sleek and agile, piloted by the best humanity had to offer. They cut through space like blades, weaving between enemy fire and returning volleys with deadly precision. "Focus fire on their capital ships," Bailey barked, his gaze locked on the largest enemy vessel, a monstrous ship that towered over the rest. Its surface pulsed with a sickly green glow, and strange tendrils extended from its hull, wrapping around smaller Void ships and absorbing them into its mass. The Indomitable's cannons fired again, this time aimed at the heart of the Void fleet. Bright blue energy beams sliced through the darkness, striking the capital ship's shields. The Void vessel trembled, its bioorganic hull shuddering as the force of the impact rippled through it. But it didn't fall. Instead, the Void ship retaliated. Massive tendrils extended from its hull, lashing out toward the Indomitable. They moved like living creatures, writhing and twisting as they closed in on the human warship. "Evasive maneuvers," Captain Michaels shouted. The Indomitable veered sharply to the side, narrowly avoiding the tendrils as they struck where the ship had been moments before. The tendrils crackled with energy, sending ripples through space. "We can't take much more of this," Michaels muttered. His fingers danced across the control panel as he coordinated with the ship's gunners, desperately trying to keep the void ship at bay. Bailey's jaw clenched. He knew they couldn't simply outblast the void. They had to take the fight to them, directly. "Prepare the ion cannons," Bailey ordered. His voice was steady, but there was a weight to his words. The ion cannons were the Indomitable's most powerful weapons, capable of disrupting the bioorganic structure of void ships. But using them came at a cost. They required massive amounts of energy, leaving the ship vulnerable for a few precious seconds. "Sir, if we use the ion cannons," Michaels began, but Bailey cut him off. "I know the risks, Captain, but if we don't use them now, we might not get another chance." Michaels nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. "Aye, sir. Preparing the ion cannons." The void capital ship was closing in, its tendrils once again lashing out. This time, they struck true. The Indomitable's shields flared and dimmed as the tendrils wrapped around the hull, squeezing with immense force. "Shields are failing," a crew member shouted from the console. "Fire the ion cannons," Bailey commanded, his voice a roar. The ship trembled as the ion cannons unleashed their full power. Bright beams of crackling energy shot from the Indomitable, slamming into the void capital ship. The alien vessel shuddered, its bioorganic hull writhing as the ion energy disrupted its structure. For a moment, everything went still. Then the void ship exploded. A massive shockwave rippled through space as the capital ship was torn apart, its twisted remains scattering into the void. The tendrils gripping the Indomitable fell limp, disintegrating as the ship pulled free. Cheers erupted on the bridge. "We did it," Michaels exclaimed, a rare smile crossing his face. But Bailey wasn't smiling. His eyes were fixed on the tactical display, where new red blips were appearing. More void ships, dozens of them, converging on their position. "This fight isn't over," Bailey said grimly. "All ships, regroup. We're not done yet." The Indomitable turned to face the new wave of void ships, its cannons roaring to life once more. Bailey knew the battle ahead would be long and brutal, but he also knew that humanity had faced impossible odds before, and won. The fight for the Lura, and perhaps for the future of the galaxy itself, had only just begun. The Indomitable had barely caught its breath after the destruction of the void capital ship when the next wave of enemies descended. Admiral Bailey stood firm, surveying the swarm of red blips on the tactical display. The void ships, undeterred by their losses, closed in like a predatory pack. "All ships, tighten formation," Bailey commanded. "We need to hold the line." Human starfighters weaved through enemy formations, picking off void fighters with precision. Despite their numbers, the enemy fleet lacked cohesion, and Bailey saw an opportunity. He could feel the shift. Their relentless assault was becoming desperate. "Focus fire on their command vessels," he ordered. "Break their coordination, and the rest will fall." The Indomitable's cannons blazed, tearing through the void ship's defenses. One by one, the command vessels disintegrated, their remnants floating lifelessly through the stars. The void, now leaderless, scattered in disarray. As silence settled over the battlefield, Bailey exhaled, his shoulders relaxing. The tide had turned, but as the crew celebrated, a chilling new energy signature appeared on the sensors. Something much bigger was coming. Bailey narrowed his eyes. This isn't over. The new energy signature loomed closer, dwarfing everything the humans had encountered so far. Admiral Bailey stared at the holographic display as the massive ship came into focus, a monstrous void battleship, larger than anything they'd faced. Its organic hull pulsated like a living entity, exuding an aura of dread. "Admiral," Captain Michaels said, his voice tinged with worry, "that thing is off the charts. Its firepower could decimate an entire fleet." Bailey clenched his fists. "We're not backing down now. Prepare all ships for a full assault." The crew scrambled to their stations, the tension thick in the air. The Indomitable led the charge, its engines roaring as it hurtled toward the enormous void ship. Human ships followed suit, launching volleys of missiles and energy blasts, but the enemy absorbed the hits with unnerving ease. The void battleship retaliated, unleashing beams of energy that vaporized entire squadrons in seconds. "We're taking heavy losses," Captain Michaels shouted as another human cruiser exploded on the view screen. Bailey's mind raced. Conventional tactics weren't working. They needed to get creative. His eyes flicked toward the display of their fleet's positions, then to the surrounding asteroid field. "Redirect all remaining ships to the asteroid field," Bailey ordered. "We're going to use the terrain to our advantage." The human fleet shifted course, weaving between the asteroids while continuing to fire at the void ship. The asteroids provided cover, but they also gave the humans something more: the potential for a final, devastating strike. "Prepare to detonate the largest asteroid when we're in position," Bailey said. "We'll use it as a battering ram." As the Indomitable and the rest of the fleet dodged incoming fire, the massive asteroid lined up with the void battleship's trajectory. The moment was tense. One miscalculation could mean the end of their forces. Bailey watched the distance between the asteroid and the void ship close in rapidly. "Now," he yelled. The asteroid detonated, sending massive chunks of rock hurtling toward the void ship. The largest piece slammed into its hull, tearing through the organic material with a sickening crack. The void ship shuddered as explosions rippled across its surface, its eerie pulsating light dimming. The crew of the Indomitable erupted into cheers as the void battleship disintegrated before their eyes. Bailey let out a long breath. "We did it." But as the debris of the destroyed ship drifted into the void, Bailey couldn't shake the feeling that something far worse still lurked in the darkness. The battle was over, but the war, it was just beginning. The remnants of the battle floated silently in space, wreckage from both human and void ships drifting among the stars. The human fleet was battered but victorious. On board the Indomitable, Admiral Bailey stood on the bridge, surveying the aftermath with a grim expression. The silence was interrupted by a signal from the fleet's science vessel. "Admiral, you're going to want to see this," came the voice of Dr. Elena Vargas, head of the ship's science division. Bailey and Captain Michaels exchanged a glance before heading to the science lab. Upon entering, Dr. Vargas greeted them with a mix of excitement and concern. "We found something inside the wreckage of the void battleship," she said, motioning toward a holographic display. "It's an artifact." The display showed a strange crystalline structure, alien in design but oddly familiar, as though it was a relic from an ancient time. It pulsed faintly with a dull, dark energy. "What is it?" Bailey asked, his voice low. Dr. Vargas shook her head. "We're not entirely sure, but its energy signature is unlike anything we've seen before. It's not just a weapon. It's a key, a conduit to something much larger." Captain Michaels frowned. "Larger? What could be larger than that monstrosity we just fought?" Dr. Vargas zoomed in on the artifact, revealing intricate carvings etched into its surface. "It appears to be a piece of a network. And if my calculations are correct, this network spans across multiple star systems. This void ship wasn't just attacking us, it was trying to protect something. A central core, maybe, or worse, an entire fleet." Bailey leaned closer to the holographic image. "Where does this network lead?" Dr. Vargas hesitated, her fingers dancing across the console as she brought up a new display, a map of nearby star systems. "Here," she said, pointing to a sector far from Earth. "This region has been largely uncharted, but there's a strong gravitational anomaly at its center. If the artifact's energy readings are correct, that's where the void ships are coming from, and it's likely where the core of their power resides." The room fell into a heavy silence as the implication of her words settled over them. "So it wasn't just a single fleet," Captain Michaels said. "There's an entire void empire out there." Bailey clenched his jaw. "And it's waiting for us to find it." Dr. Vargas nodded. But this artifact, it's the key. If we can decode it, we might be able to find a way to shut down their network. Maybe even turn their technology against them. Bailey turned to the window, staring out at the stars. We've come too far to turn back now. If there's a chance to stop them, we have to take it. Captain Michaels stepped forward. Admiral, our fleet is in no condition to launch another attack, especially if we're heading into the heart of their territory. I know, Bailey replied, his voice resolute. But we don't have a choice. If we don't take the fight to them now, they'll keep coming. And next time, we might not be so lucky. The decision was made. The human fleet would embark on a dangerous mission to the unknown sector, where they would confront the true source of the Void's power. They were battered and weary, but their resolve was unbreakable. As the indomitable set a course for the distant stars, Bailey stood alone on the bridge, staring at the artifact that now rested in their cargo bay. He could feel it, a dark presence, watching, waiting. Whatever the Void was protecting, it wasn't just a threat to Earth. It was a threat to the entire galaxy, and humanity was about to face it head-on. The human fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the uncharted system. Before them lay the heart of the Void's power, a massive structure orbiting a dead star, pulsing with dark energy. The sheer scale of it dwarfed anything they had faced before. Admiral Bailey stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, his gaze fixed on the ominous structure. "This is it," he said quietly. "We either end this now, or the galaxy falls." Dr. Vargas, working feverishly on the artifact, suddenly exclaimed, "I've got it. The artifact. It can disrupt their network. But we'll need to get close, dangerously close." Bailey nodded. "Do it." The fleet surged forward, weapons ready. As they closed in, waves of Void ships emerged from the structure, but the human fleet held the line, pushing through the onslaught. With precision and determination, they fought their way to the heart of the Void. Dr. Vargas activated the artifact, sending out a powerful signal that resonated through the alien structure. Suddenly, the Void ships faltered. Their coordination broke, and the dark energy that powered them flickered out. One by one, the ships began to crumble, disintegrating into dust. Cheers erupted across the human fleet. The impossible had been achieved. The Void was defeated. As the massive structure collapsed, Admiral Bailey watched in silence. Humanity had faced the darkest threat in the galaxy and triumphed. But he knew this victory was only the beginning.